While I wait for my mom to get moving here, I just want to talk about how caregiving changes you. I thought it would just change my schedule, but it also changed who I am. And I feel like this is something that we need to talk about more often, because when people talk about caregiving, we often focus on the tasks, the appointments, the medications, the routine, the burnout, but no one really prepares you for the identity shift that you go through. Before caregiving, I knew who I was in a very clear way. Or at least, honestly, I thought I did. I had plans, I had momentum, I had an idea of where I wanted to be and the type of woman that I was becoming. And then caregiving entered my life and I chose it. Suddenly, everything that defined who I was previously, was completely negotiable. My time, my energy, my body, my future, my mind, my finances, just everything. Though I didn't lose myself completely overnight. It was like this slow editing of myself down to fit inside what was required of me. And one of the biggest shifts for me was realizing how much my identity had been built around caregiving, had been built around productivity, whether it was professional or within my caregiving role. And who I was tied to what I could do, how much I could handle, how quickly I could get it done, and how quietly I could carry it. And caregiving really exposed that, because caregiving doesn't reward over functioning. And that was a very long and arduous process for me to learn and to work through. And eventually it forced me to ask a question I had never really asked myself before. And that was like, who am I when I can't keep pushing? Who am I when I've hit a wall? Who am I when I just feel like I can't do everything all the time? And another way caregiving reshaped my identity was how I understood womanhood. I grew up believing that being a good woman meant being accommodating and nurturing and endlessly available and gracious. And caregiving took that belief and ran it straight into reality. I learned that love without boundaries turns into erasing yourself, basically. That strength doesn't always look like endurance. Sometimes it looks like honesty. Sometimes it looks like saying, I can't do this today. I can't be there for you today. I need to take a nap. I need to take a shower. And realizing that changed me, because caregiving also reshapes how I relate to other people. And goodness gracious, that was just so hard there were so many things that were so hard to unlearn. I became more discerning with my energy, my time, my emotional labor, not because I wanted to be closed off or because I didn't care anymore or because I didn't like people anymore, but because I finally understood how limited those things actually are. So this version of me doesn't explain herself as much as I used to. I am much more intentional on how I spend my time, who I spend my time with, and that is new. That's a new process for me. And there's a grief inside this identity shift that happens, a grief that you're not prepared for. And it was a grief that I wasn't prepared for. It was a process of grieving the version of myself who thought life would move in a straight line. Grief for the woman who didn't understand how heavy loving someone with Alzheimer's could be. And grief for the timelines that quietly disappeared, or sometimes loudly disappeared. And caregiving teaches you how to hold your gratitude and grief in the same breath. And if you're a caregiver watching this and you don't recognize yourself anymore, know that it's so normal. It's a normal part of this process, and I want you to hear this. You didn't lose yourself. You evolved under pressure. You are evolving under pressure. This version of you carries wisdom that couldn't have been learned any other way. This process is so unique. It's not fun, it's dirty, it's messy, it hurts like heck. And even if your life looks smaller on the outside, just know that there's a depth developing in you that deserves to be honored. This is how caregiving reshaped my identity. Not just my life or my time or my resources, but who I actually am at my core. And I'm still learning how to hold who I was and also who I'm becoming. It's such a process. It's like constant evolution. But I'm here and I'm doing it and I'm continuing to show up, and it ebbs and flows just like this journey of caregiving in general does. But I want to encourage you to continue pursuing yourself. Continue pursuing the person you want to be. Continue pursuing getting to know yourself. Continue to develop as an individual apart from caregiving. The two can coincide and work together. It takes effort and it takes time. It takes patience, but it can be done. And you are absolutely deserving of that.